Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. There are two very popular small and cheap 1/24 scale crawlers from Chinese brands on the market actually or today. Those are the RGT 1/24 Adventurer V2, this guy and also that guy, and the Hobby Plus CR-24, this guy. Both are sold under several different names. And which one of those is the better one? Which one should I buy? I would always buy the Hobby Plus CR-24, that guy. And in this video I will tell and show you why. So here they are now. Two RGT V2 1/24, one with a Defender style body, the other with a Toyota pickup style body, and two Hobby Plus CR-24, both with a Defender style body, one stock and the other already modified. But first let's talk about the names under which those trucks are sold in different parts of the world. The RGT 136-24-0, that's this guy, Adventurer V2. It's also sold as FTX Outback Mini 3.0 Ranger, the Defender style, and mainly in the British area. And also with different bodies, but the same chassis as Element RC Enduro24 Sendero, and there is also a new version, the Trail Runner, so Enduro24 Trail Runner. And the Hobby Plus CR-24, this guy, is also sold as Uruav 1/24, and here in German-speaking countries in nearly every local hobby shop as Amewi AMXRock AM24. This one I bought as Amewi nearly 2 years ago. And in British area, the CR-24 is also sold as FTX Outback Mini, but 2.0 and not 3.0 as the RGT. The CR-24 comes with different body styles, Defender and two further styles of Jeep or Bronco body styles, and FTX in the British area sells those styles as FTX Outback Mini 2.0 Ranger and Paso and Alto. So the FTX Outback Mini Ranger 2.0 is the CR-24 Defender, but the FTX Outback Mini Ranger 3.0 is the RGT 1/24 Defender, so that's quite puzzling. And even more puzzling, the Amewi AMXRock AM24 Ranger, here in my hobby shops locally, that's not the Defender, but that's the Jeep style body. And this one is the very first of those new style 1/24 scale crawlers I bought. I bought it nearly exactly 2 years ago in January or February 2019 here locally in Austria as Amewi AM24. Yes, I paid 100 euros and got 10 euros off for it. And before this I only had from super micro crawlers some Orlandos and Mini C Overlands, and of course larger 1/10 and WPM and MN trucks. But some months ago I bought 3 more of those 1/24 trucks, those 3, for a special reason, which I will tell you a little bit later. So those 3 are still totally out of the box, untouched, perfect for comparison. My old one, this one is already highly modified, but body still not finished, lights, interior, driver missing. That's already for about a year now, and I will not use it in this video. I will probably make a video comparing my upgraded CR-24 with the stock CR-24, should I have finished this CR-24 one day. But so now let's compare those. The red Toyota style RGT, this one, is also already a V2 version with a large front motor It's exactly the same as the Defender, and I bought it from Banggood last year on a promotion or using some coupons, and I guess I paid only 55 euros or something, including shipping. And this one was still described as V1 version, so the old version with central transmission. And that's why I bought it, because I do not have a V1 version, and I wanted to compare the old and the new and the CR-24. However, when it arrived, I saw that is a V2 version 2 with divorced transfer case. Exactly the same chassis as the Defender, only the rear bumper is missing. But it's hard to complain if you get a better upgraded product than ordered, and that's why I do have two RGT V2 now, and both are not really suitable for my needs, unfortunately. However, I could still buy the V1 version of the RGT as EasyX Barrage 1-24, still around here in local hobby shops, but only with this strange cheap body for 100 euros mostly, sometimes on promotion. But so far I didn't buy one, and that's why I can only compare the new version of the RGT, the V2, which is identical to the Element RC Enduro24 from chassis, and the Hobby Plus CR-24. And now let's compare those, and I will explain and show to you why the CR-24 is the better truck, at least in my opinion, but for sure for my needs, what I want. First, let's talk a little bit about prices. Price of CR-24 and RGT 1-24 are about the same, but prices vary. So mostly the RGT is sold for about 10 bucks more than the CR-24, the Hobby Plus CR-24, more expensive. But on some promotions it's also different, and sometimes you will get those for about 70 or 80 US dollar, and additionally can use coupons, but mostly all those are sold for about 80 to 100 US dollars, at least in the Chinese shops. And the RGTs, those ones are not sold, to my knowledge, in local hobby shops here in my area, but the CR-24 is, and those are really super popular, as already mentioned, Amewi, AMXRock, AM24, and mostly those go for around 100 euros, what's about 110 to 120 US dollars. Sometimes on promotion they are also cheaper. I paid 90 for this, 10 euros off. But they are still significantly cheaper than the XL-SX24 here, which starts at 130 euros, what's about 150 US dollar for the deadbolt, and the body is 170 euros, so nearly 200 US dollars. Of course, you get those sometimes on promotion too. So price is about the same in the RGT and the Hobby Plus. There is no winner. And then second, let's talk about bodies. Of course, body and body style is a matter of personal taste, and I like this pickup style in the RGT 1-24, but I think it's not available anymore. I don't see it around anymore. And mostly you will find this Defender style bodies in red, gray, in FTX also in green. And I personally do not like this body at all. I can't understand why some people name this body beautiful body. Probably that's one of the ugliest ready to run bodies I have in all my trucks, but of course that's only my opinion. But I think the Defender body of the CR-24 is much nicer than the Defender body of the RGT. This has a metal roll cage, really metal, quite nice. And this metal roll cage, this looks, I think, much better than this plastic roll cage in the RGT Defender with its thick rods. Yes, this has mirrors, but foldable mirrors, but they are ugly in my opinion too. And okay, the CR-24 metal roll cage is probably a weight penalty for center of gravity, But however, I like this one more, and the two further body styles of the CR-24, they look also quite nice in my opinion. But since body style is only a matter of personal preference and taste, and I do not use or I do not intend to use those stock bodies anyway in those three trucks, I will not count this, so not pick a winner of all those three. You saw them and you will have your favorite too. Let's talk about the radios now. Both do come with those new style small radios from Turbo Racing, taking 4 AAA batteries in the handle, which you can take off. Guess you all meanwhile know those radios. And both radios do have a third channel button here and here, but the third channel will not work with the stock electronics of the 1 to 24th cars. And both do have the same size, nice and small, really good also for kids, and you can them also buy in different colors, what especially women will like. And the good thing, both of those radios will work with those cheap, waterproof, small Turbo Racing, or also sold as Hobby Porter or Hobby Plus 4-channel receivers. You can buy them for about $10 or even less, and then the third channel will work on the radio, and you can example use channel 3 for a light switch. That's really cool. So you can upgrade your truck by only buying a cheap new receiver, and you do not need a whole new radio system for this. So that's really nice. However, I really like the radio coming with the CR-24. It's the same radio that comes with the CR-18 with Atlas 6x6 Rock Hobby Katana, and I greatly dislike the radio coming with the RGT 1 to 24th. That's the radio that also comes with this 1 to 76 Turbo Racing Mini. Very cool car. And now you will ask, so why that? What's the difference? They do look nearly the same, do have the same functionality, so why? The big difference is here. The RGT radio does have knobs for trim and dual rate. The CR-24 radio does have push buttons, and I greatly dislike those awful knobs in that radio that comes with the RGT. And why? You'd say other radios do come with knobs too. Yes, they do. For example, the FTX radio does. But those radios do have a cover you will have to open to turn the knobs. And the RGT and Turbo Racing radio does not. The knobs are free. And it's super easy to move those knobs unintentionally. So when the radio lies on the sofa between pillows, or when I store it in my big box where I have numerous of those small transmitters, and if you then turn on radio and car and use that transmitter with the displaced knobs, this will cause major problems. And what's the most annoying part, it would be easy to check if the knobs are in correct position or center position before turning on radio and car, but that's only in theory. The center position on the knobs, that's only marked with a tiny error. I hope you can see it here on camera, which is extremely hard to see, and especially under low light conditions. And furthermore, if you turn the knobs, you will not feel a center point. So you will have to check it visually. And therefore I do always need bright light, and that's really extremely annoying. And the CR-24 radio, in contrary, does not have those knobs for turning, but buttons. And you cannot shift those when the radio is off, so that's already cool. And if the radio is on and you press those buttons, then the center point will be signaled acoustically. So much better, and that's why I really hate those radios. And I really do like those radios coming with the CR-24. So radios, clear winner for me, the CR-24 with this radio. Then both trucks do come with lights in the bumper, as you can see here in the CR-24. You cannot switch them off by remote, as already mentioned. In the CR-24, the lights are always on. So if you turn on the car, front lights, rear lights are always on. In the RGT, in contrary, lights are only on if the car is running. So forwards and backwards, the red lights will be on. I think that's quite odd. Lights only on while driving and off while standing still. Here I highly prefer the way the CR-24 or Hobby Plus have solved this. Not a big point, but a small point for me. The CR-24 clearly wins too. And now, before taking the bodies off and taking a look at chassis and electronics, let's check the weight of the trucks. So ready to run with battery. The CR-24 has 240 grams and the RGT 1-24 has 269 grams. So it's more than 10% heavier than the CR-24. But now let's take a look at the chassis and electronics. Bodies are mounted with those awful tiny body pins in all of those. They are really nasty to remove and even more nasty to put on again, especially here on the back side of the CR-24, but even worse here if you have to put them on again on the RGT 1-24, especially here on the roof of the RGT 1-24, because of this rod here. Putting them on again is always nasty. I really hate those body clips. Check this out. Isn't that cool? Okay, weight penalty because of the magnets. However, no body clips. And now the bodies are off and you can see the big difference in the construction of those two trucks. Both do come with one S-LiPos. The RGT does have a 520 milliamp hours, one S-LiPo. The Hobby Plus CR18 does have a 600 milliamp hours, one S-LiPo, so a little bit larger, more milliamp hours, and it's even lighter, so probably better runtime. I never checked the runtime of those trucks. By the way, to the plugs, both do come with those Molex 2-pin 2mm plugs, formerly also called LOSI plugs. And those plugs are also used on the larger 2S LiPos that come with the CR18 Hobby Plus trucks, with the Rock Hobby Katana and with the Atlas 6x6S power plugs. In former times, those plugs were exclusively used in 1S LiPos, but same with the SCX-24, which uses now PH 2.0 2-pin plugs as power plugs for its 2S LiPo, which were formerly also exclusively used for 1S LiPos in Horizon Hobby products. And I think that's not a good idea. You could plug now a 2S LiPo like this one easily, maybe of your CR18 or Atlas, to a 1-24 RGT or CR-24, but those are only meant to run on 1S. However, since both of those trucks are really slow, many guys run their RGTs. At least I read it about the old V1 version, which is also the ECX Barrage on 2S, what makes them nearly to real bashers. And I'm not sure how long this will work, if those electronics do have an inbuilt PC, or if the server then will receive more than 8 volts from a 2S LiPo. I never tried it in the RGTs, and I burned the electronics of my Amewi AM24 already a long time ago. You see Amewi but labeled Hobby Plus. I burned this already a long time ago. I'm not sure anymore if it was when I tried to run it on 2S or when I tried something else. However, I do not recommend to run those trucks on 2S. But if you should, of course, that's on your own risk. You can try. The RGT, also the Element Enduro24, they do have a front motor with divorced transfer case, while the CR-24 does only have central transmission with motor directly mounted to the transfer case. And the RGT does come with a much larger motor than the CR-24. The RGT motor is about 180 size, and this is exactly the same motor that comes with the larger 1/18 Katana, the Atlas 6x6 and the new CR18s. That is this motor. You can buy it from RGT. It has the same labeling, and you can buy it from Hobby Plus as spare or upgrade. And the CR-24 does come with a much smaller motor, about 130 size, and you can also buy a small upgrade motor, a torque motor for this from Hobby Plus. But you cannot mount the larger motor to the CR-24 easily. There are two reasons why that's not easy or even impossible. First, there is no room here because of the link. The CR18s with the larger motors, Katana, Atlas, they do have a penhut bar and missing this link. So here's room for the larger motor. The CR-24 does not have a penhut bar and has a 4-link suspension. And furthermore, rather odd, the mounting holes for the screws on the motor cans are in opposite direction. I will show this to you. That's the 180 motor, or the larger motor, and that's the small motor. And you see? And you cannot simply turn the motor. This will not work. So the holes stay in opposite direction. And additionally, you cannot simply drill new holes on the motor mount of the transfer case to mount the larger motor in the CR-24, because very near, not exactly on the same position, but very near, there is already a hole for a screw for screwing together the plastic shells of the transfer case. In the CR18, in the Katana, in the Atlas transfer cases, they solved this problem in a rather unprofessional way by simply not mounting this central screw. However, upgrading the CR-24 with a larger motor is not a simple procedure. But is the larger motor always better? Well, of course it's stronger, but it will also need a lot more energy, so runtime will for sure decrease significantly. And the RGT does already come with a smaller LiPo battery than the CR-24, 520 versus 600 milliamp hours. However, as mentioned, I never tested the runtimes in those trucks. But even the old Hobby Plus CR18 do only come with small 130 torque motors. That's this guy here. Here you can see the motor. The driving performance of those, that's surprisingly good. So there's the question why the tiny RGT or the Element RC24 scale truck needs such large motors. And the more because those run only on 1S LiPos, this runs on 2S. Now let's check the weight difference between the small and the large motor. So the large 180 motor does have exactly 19 grams with wires, and the small 130 motor does have 10.7 grams, so nearly twice as heavy, or at least much heavier than the small motor of the CR-24. And furthermore, the small motor of the CR-24 is mounted very low in the chassis, so really good for center of gravity, while the large motor of the RGT and Element RC Enduro is sitting very high in the frame. This has for sure negative effects on the center of gravity of the truck. I will do some run tests later, of course, where you will see this. And do you see where the motor is mounted in the RGT 1/24 truck? Front motor is good, isn't it? Well, I saw a review video of a very popular scale builder on the Element RC Enduro24, so a more or less relabeled RGT 1/24 with different body only. Well, it was more a promotional video than a review. And in this video he pointed this out, how cool, front motor, more room for different body styles, body shells, maybe interior, as we are used from our 1/10 trucks. But is this true? Maybe you will ask yourself, why did I buy 3 additional RGT and CR-24 trucks if I do already have so many other probably better micro trucks? The reason for this is the Mini C 4x4. This guy here. Both the RGT 1/24 and the CR-24 do have exactly the same wheelbase as my Mini C 4x4 Suzuki Jimny. 120 millimeters wheelbase in all of those. And some really nice new bodies have been released for the Mini C chassis. Body kits, hard plastics, so you have to assemble and paint them. And those are this Defender style body, still work in progress, and this Mercedes G-Wagon, also still work in progress. And furthermore, Mini C body kits are meanwhile also available, so I, even more in progress, bought this Jeep body 2, also for 120 millimeters wheelbase. And since I didn't want to buy more Mini Cs because those are super expensive here they are about 240 to 250 euros, so about 280 US dollar in my country, about 3 times the price of one of those trucks I show you in this video. I bought those 3 Jeepos for those bodies, and all those bodies fit nicely to the CR-24 chassis. Even the Jeep with its small body, but it looks like a tough crawler that way. And of course Mercedes will fit, and also the Defender will fit perfectly, so super cool. And now let's test this with the RGT, with the front motor and with the servo mounted in front. Let's take the pickup because it has shorter body posts, but it's absolutely the same truck inside, as you can see here. And take a look at this now. Can you see upcoming problems? I guess you can. Is front motor always good for scale bodies? In this case, in the RGT 1/24 and in the Enduro24s, for sure not. Motor and servo sit far too much in front to fit potential bodies. Check this out, the Jeep now. No way. It's quite a small body. and the large Defender body still will not fit. It's a little bit too far in front too. And the super large, huge Mercedes body maybe could fit. I have to check it if the bumper's on. But I see a chance this huge 1/24th body maybe could fit. We'll see. And there is no real solution for this. Bringing the axles more to front will be really very difficult. Drive shafts, the links are not adjustable, so no easy operation, and bringing motor and servo to center is probably, more to center position is probably impossible. And this is the main reason for me, for my personal case here, why I'm really very unhappy with the RGT 1/24th. And I would have highly preferred to get the old V1 version with the Toyota body, which I had ordered and which had central transmission, and the bodies probably would have fit. And I would immediately change those against further CR-24th. However, even with central transmission, there's nearly no difference between CR-24 and RGT 1/24 in room available for a potential interior in a 1/24th body. Yeah, the electronics maybe. But now let's go on comparing those trucks. The RGT has the receiver ESC units more in the back, and the Hobby Plus CR-24 more on the front side. The RGT comes with a switch with this rubber cover, as you know from the CR-18 Atlas 6x6 Katana. They are sometimes quite hard to move. I often have problems with those. And the Hobby Plus comes with a simple, much easier to move switch, and you can reach both of them from outside when the body is on. Not easy, but you can. And concerning servos, however, the RGT will clearly win against the CR-24. The RGT comes with a 3-wire servo with okay performance, while the CR-24 unfortunately comes with a 5-wire servo, and that's not super strong. In my first CR-24, which I drove quite a bit in stock form, the servo could hardly turn the truck when the car was standing still on a carpet. So if you upgrade the electronics of the CR-24, you will have to get a new 3-wire servo. In the RGT 1/24th you could simply use the stock servo, but there are for sure better servos out there. As you, for example, can see in my upgraded CR-24, those usual servos will fit that are used for those small trucks. But that the servos do quite hard on a carpet in a standing car is also due to a quite positive thing. Both trucks, the RGT and the CR-24, do come with quite nice tires. So quality is really good. They are soft and sticky, both. For a ready to run, really okay, no foams inside, however. And you can buy those tires also as spare parts. So both the Hobby Plus from the CR-24 and also the RGT tires, and I think both are okay. I do not have a preference. Nevertheless, the CR-24 clearly wins the wheel sections against the RGT 1/24. Not because of the tires, Not because of the tires. Tires are on the same level in my opinion, but because of the rims. RGT 1-24 tires are glued to the plastic rims, and that's always a pain, a big pain. You can even see the glue here. Removing tires glued to rims, and a pain if you want to tune, test foams, weights, and so on. And the CR-24 in contrary comes with really nice beadlock rims. So you can see the screws here, those are already painted. I really like those rims. They are the same that come with the CR-18s. Nice for tuning, playing around with foams and weights. I did already tune them in my upgraded CR-24, and you can use lead for wheel weights, so that type of lead, or you can use cheap solder like this one. I bought this China solder only for making wheel weights. Don't use it for soldering. At least not for soldering SMD parts, really no good quality. Here you can see the rims, you can also buy them as spare parts. And those rings, you can glue small pieces of solder in the openings of those rims. I saw this somewhere on YouTube. I mostly used those golf and tennis weights, also lead, sticky. But you can also buy upgrade wheel weights, heavy rings for the CR-24 tires. Those are those ones, really heavy. They are quite awesome, but unfortunately really expensive. But you can buy the rims and the tires for cheap, so that's quite awesome with the Hobby Plus CR-24. You can buy only the beadlock rims, you can buy only the tires, and you can buy a set of tires and rims for less than $10, and that's quite awesome. And because both trucks do come with 7mm hex, so you will be able those beadlock rims and also the tires of the CR-24 also in the RGT truck. Of course there are better tires out there, but if you compare the price, for example, those RC 4-wheel drive tires and stamped steel beadlock wheels, they are hard to get, mostly out of stock everywhere, and they are about 45 euros here in my country, more than $50 US. And a set of really nice tires and rims for less than $10 for those small trucks, that's really a bargain. And tires are really quite good. No RC 4-wheel drives, but really good. So the CR-24, the Hobby Plus CR-24 clearly wins this point because of those super nice beadlock wheels. Both trucks do come with metal frame rails, and everything else is plastic, but the bushings. They do come with metal bushings, no ball bearings unfortunately, but what would you expect for this price? And you will get all spare parts for those. A good source for spare parts with a large selection is always RGTs, but you will also find some parts on Banggood, Ali, eBay, and probably also on some local shops. So for example, here are the axle housings, you get the RGT spur gear, you get the gears for the Hobby Plus CR-24 and the CR-18s and Katana, that's the same. The spur gear of the RGT is larger than the spur gear of the CR-24. You get also for the RGT transmission covers, gears, so everything available. Links. And many of the parts used in the drivetrain of the CR-24 are the same as in the larger CR-18s. So gears, pumpkins. The CR-24 does only have shorter end pieces of the axles than the CR-18 or the Rock Hobby Katana or the Atlas 6x6. And the RGT, as already mentioned, larger spur gear than the CR-24 and also larger pumpkins, so axles look nicer in the CR-24 for sure. And there are a lot of upgrade parts available for the CR-24. Didn't drive my RGTs really in stock form, but I did drive my first CR-24, my AM24, quite a lot, and I had problems with the drive shafts. So they are quite weak, they came apart. I also read this about the Enduro24s. When people try to upgrade them, run on 2S and put heavier wheels and all this stuff, the drive shafts came apart. For the CR-24, there are good drive shafts in metal available, even two different ones. You see those here, really quite sturdy and quite okay. Those are those ones. I got those from Banggood, but there are also more slender ones available from Hobby Plus. Those I got from Asia Tees. So quite a big selection of upgrade parts. You can also buy upgrade shocks. Unfortunately not oil-filled metal shocks. You can easily remove this ugly red paint if it doesn't fit to your truck. Did it here, you see. Simply put them in stove cleaner and the red comes off easily. Other people use brake fluid, but for most trucks red is not the best color, so I like those much more. For the Katana, however, red would be perfect. Unfortunately, all those upgrade parts are really quite pricey. So the shocks are not cheap, the drive shafts are not cheap. However, if you intend to upgrade your CR-24, I really recommend to buy those upgrade drive shafts out of metal. They are really quite nice and sturdy, and the stock drive shafts of the CR-24s and also the RGT 1 to 24th and also in the V1 in the old generation ECX Barrage, they are not very sturdy, and if they come apart, they always come apart here on their joints. Not a big deal, I always could reassemble them, but that's a weak point. And this seems also to be a weak point somewhere in the RGT, Enduro, ECX Barrage type of the 1 to 24th. By the way, my first CR-24, the Amewi AM24, this came with red drive shafts and also red shocks. The same shocks as this CR-18. And the second one I bought, the CR-24 Hobby Plus, this did come with black drive shafts and also black shocks, which look much nicer in my opinion. And now let's do some drive tests. I will put the bodies on again, RGT 1 to 24 and CR-24. And now some drive tests, simply on the bench. You see both trucks are on now. And you see the lights of the CR-24 are on, so I know it's on, and the lights of the RGT 1 to 24 are not on, so I don't know it's on. And I did already tell you, those switches inside with the rubber coat are quite hard to switch on and switch off, and you never know if they're on and off. And what happened yesterday, when I stopped filming, I thought maybe I will continue later. I switched off the trucks I have thought. Today, when I started filming again in the evening now, the RGT didn't work anymore. So what happened? I did not switch off the truck. Of course, my mistake. And the battery was in all day long, and now even the battery checker doesn't check anymore. Battery is gone. wrong polarity, doesn't matter here. When I tested it before, it still did have 1 volt, yet now it's totally gone. Maybe I could rescue it on nickel cadmium mode, but it's gone, it's broken. And of course this was my mistake, but this mistake could happen to you or your kids too. So I really don't like those switches. They are also in the CR-18s and in the Katana and in the Atlas quite hard to switch. And what I really like is, you see in the CR-24 it is still on and you will switch off the battery. But what you also do see here is servo in the RGT is much better than in the CR-24. Both trucks are rather slow. Let's start with the speed test. About the same. Maybe the RGT is no, nearly about the same maximum speed. Not very fast both. Let's check the noise. So here's the CR-24 and let's check when it starts. Check my index finger. Quite a little bit of noise, and starts quite far, quite soon, so before half of the throttle trigger. And the CR-24 it's by far not that noisy, by far not as noisy as the RGT. It seems to start a little bit later, but you can crawl it slower. You can see this here. Let's do the RGT again, or the Element Enduro. Much louder. Starts a little bit earlier, but impossible to drive as slowly as with the CR-24. I try to do this in parallel now. That's the RGT, that's the CR-24. Starts earlier, but the CR-24 can crawl much slower. Try it again. That's the slowest the RGT can do. Come on. So the CR-24 does have better low speed modulation, however the throttle trigger or the RGT 1 to 24 starts earlier, so you have more way on the throttle trigger. Let's check it here, how slow we can crawl over an obstacle. I try to do it as smooth and slow as possible. Still not climbing. No, and it's a kind of jump, you know this from many other trucks. Of course you can jump over this obstacle, but it's not really possible to climb really slowly. And now let's check the CR-24 with a small motor. It can go much slower. This was not good. But you also can climb much slower over this obstacle. Of course you can jump it. Come on, little guy. Yes. And again the large motor, the RGT. I try to do it as slow as possible. It's impossible for me to stand still somewhere here, it seems. Maybe that's because I'm such a bad driver, for sure, too, but I cannot do it with the RGT. Stop on the top. And I easily can do it with the CR-24. So much nicer modulation, much nicer modulation. Huge rock, what will happen? Are they able to climb this huge rock? No problem. Huge rock. Yeah. But you see, modulation, I try to do it as smooth as possible. There's a big difference between the CR-24 and the RGT or element. But both can do it, and ground clearance seems to be the same in both, so without some speed both won't be able to climb this obstacle. Once again, and here is need some speed to jump, and the same with the RGT 1-24, but I'm not able to stop. I can't believe this. I'm not able. Am I really such a bad driver? Ow, okay, now I could do it too. And same thing. Okay, so better low speed modulation for sure in the CR-24, but better servo, stronger servo for sure in the RGT. And now let's try to make a simple climb. About 40 degree should be no problem for both. CR-24. Stops. No problem at all. And the RGT 1-24. Same. But startup is much smoother in the CR-24 again than in the RGT. And now let's go to 46 degrees. Now let's try 46 degrees. CR-24. No problem, but not much more. 46 degrees, but it can still climb nicely. The right front wheel is already in the air. And now let's check the RGT with heavy front motor. 46 degrees. Wow. Was I too fast because low speed modulation is so poor in this? I try to do it as smooth as possible. Really as slow as possible. No. No way. So again, CR-24. Clear win for the CR-24. But the RGT is much heavier and has a larger motor, so it's probably significantly stronger than the CR-24. I think. Let's make a pull test. Okay. So, pull test. And the red one has to win. It's not possible other way around. Yeah, it does win. Once again, okay, maybe there are some magnets there. Let's try it the other way around. No, the small CR-24 loses, but no surprise at all. Weight is quite an important factor here. So very simple drive tests. Better servo, so you should upgrade your servo. But everything else in driving, at least in crawling, that tiny guy again has won. And what you saw, center of gravity of this guy, front motor, central motor, large front motor, no chance. 46 degrees, that was probably about the maximum. You saw maybe it would do 47 without any tuning wheel weights, but no chance for the RGT. Better low speed modulation, stronger in pulling, stronger and better servo. I know all of you guys want me now to compare those small RGTs and CR-24s to this sucker, to the XL SCX-24, but I won't do this. That's not fair. The SCX-24 is a different class. It's larger, it has larger tires, it runs on 2S, it does have worm gears, and it's made to crawl. While those tiny scale crawlers are clearly nice toy trail trucks and not super crawlers. And the SCX-24 is also significantly more expensive. So that's no fair comparison in my opinion. The SCX-24 would clearly win. But what else is out there in tiny and cheap scale crawlers? Not a lot. Most of the 1 to 24th trucks you will get in your hobby shop are either RGTs, also as Element Enduro24 or FTX Outback Mini 3.0, or Hobby Plus CR-24 as FTX Outback Mini 2.0 or Amewi AMXRock AM24. Some of the old RGT adventurers you will still get in the hobby shops at EasyX Barrage. And there's also a FPV version. Those two have the central transmission and not the front motor. But what else? Well, there are the Charisma MSA1E. There is the Coyote, the Subaru Brat, and the new really nice Suzuki Jimny version. And you will get the Coyote and the Brat sometimes for really good prices, below 100 bucks. And I wanted to order the super nice Jimny. I really like the body, but it's actually more expensive. And I did already have it in the basket and wanted to order it, but then I watched some more review videos of the Charisma 1-24, and I really do not like it. It has huge and really ugly body movement, mainly also during turning, and I really did not like this. It has awful driving performance in this, in my opinion, and this was the reason why I decided not to buy a Charisma 1-24, and probably will not buy one. I do have some oil shocks from the Charisma 1-24, but they are larger than those shocks. And there's not much else. There is the super cheap SG1802. That's also now available with a cheap body as SG1801. And this truck is a bang for the buck. It's a little bit larger than the RGTs and the CR-24, and it's said to be 1/18, but it's probably not, but still larger than those ones. It does have a little bit longer wheelbase, and it's really an absolutely bang for the buck. You can buy it for a little bit more than 50 bucks. It does come with hex hardware. It has real beadlock wheels. It's really awesome for the money. You should consider buying this. I made a review video about the SG truck. Check it out if you want to know more about it. The only really negative point of the SG truck, in my opinion, is the really bad low speed modulation. It's far worse than the RGT, and of course the CR-24, it's similar to the Panda Hobby trucks. But then I do not know any more scale trucks which are still available actually in the hobby shops. Some years ago there were also the Proline Ambush, but this was much more expensive, more mini C price class, and the small low-Z crawlers many years ago, and of course those real crawlers, not scalers, such as the HBX, which is still available, or the Red Cat Sumo, the Graupner Punisher XXS, two versions of the really micro crawlers here in Europe. I do have 4 of those, and also some from WL Toys, and of course the Hobby King Basher Rockstar, a little bit larger, also still available, but those are all no scale crawlers, and most of those have been discontinued. So today you will mostly have to decide between those two, RGT and Hobby Plus, if you want to buy a cheap and nice truck, one class below the SCX-24. And I told you why I would always choose the Hobby Plus CR-24. There's really not much that speaks for the RGT or Element Enduro24, only the better and stronger servo. Strengths is no argument, and everything else I guess is better in the Hobby Plus. But it's on you, of course, what's important for you, and I guess in this video I showed you nearly all points, and if you are thinking of buying one of those micros, I really hope this video helps you to make your decision. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video. I'll be back.